This story is titled, My Mom Said I Wasn't Welcome at Thanksgiving to Please My Stepdad's Parents Who Hate Me. I crashed anyway and found what they were hiding in the garage. Now they're all facing prison time. Hey guys, a friend of mine said I should post this here, thinking my story fits as a Reddit post. So, here goes. I gotta start somewhere with this whole mess of a story. I guess the real beginning is when my dad died in a car accident when I was 7. I don't remember much about him, honestly. Just flashes of him teaching me to ride a bike, the smell of his cologne, and how he'd always bring me those little strawberry candies when he came home from work. After he died, it was just me and Mom struggling to get by in our crappy little apartment. She worked 2 jobs, waitressing during the day and cleaning offices at night. I spent a lot of time with our neighbor who watched me after school until Mom got home, usually after I was already in bed. Things were hard, but in a weird way, it was simple. Just me and Mom against the world. We didn't have much, but we had each other. That all changed when I was 16, and Mom met Nate at the restaurant where she worked. He came in for lunch every day for like a month before finally asking her out. 6 months later, they were married, and we moved into his house in the suburbs. He had a good job as a construction manager, a nice house with an actual yard, and suddenly we were going out to eat at places that weren't fast food. Mom seemed happy for the first time in years, so I tried to be happy too. His family were super welcoming at first. Too welcoming, actually, which should have been my first red flag. His parents, Barbara and Dale, who everyone calls Barb and Big D, I know, gross. His brother Kyle and Kyle's wife Melissa would always invite me over for these family bonding weekends at their place. At first I was like, cool. They're actually trying to make me feel included, not just tolerating me like my last stepdad's family did. But after like 3 months in, I started noticing some weird shit going down at these family gatherings. People would randomly disappear to the basement for 20 minutes and come back all hyped up and talking super fast. I'd see little baggies getting passed around real casual, like when they thought us kids weren't looking. Sometimes they'd have these intense whisper conversations that would stop the second I walked into a room. I'm not stupid. I grew up in the not-so-great part of town before Mom married Nate. I've seen enough to know exactly what was happening. They were all high as kites half the time. At first I thought maybe it was just weed, but the behavior was different. More intense, more secretive. One weekend when I was staying at Barbara and Dale's place, Mom and Nate went on some couples retreat. I went downstairs to grab a Mountain Dew from the garage fridge at like midnight because I couldn't sleep. I walked in on Dale, weighing out what was definitely not baking powder on this digital scale. There were literally dozens of little Ziploc baggies lined up on the workbench, some already filled with pills. He totally freaked when he saw me, knocked over some of the bags trying to cover everything with a towel, and started stuttering about how it was medication he was helping divide up for a friend with Parkinson's. Yeah, right. I'm 16, not brain dead. After that night, they all started being real weird around me, whispering when I entered rooms, giving me these looks. I could feel the tension whenever I was around. Then, one night at dinner at my mom and Nate's place, Dale cornered me in the kitchen when I was getting more water. He tried to explain their family business to me, said they were just helping people get medicine they need but can't afford, because the healthcare system is broken, and some people fall through the cracks. Tried to tell me they were basically heroes, and that the family relies on everyone staying quiet about private matters. Then he put his hand on my shoulder and squeezed it real hard while saying, "We're family now, Jennifer. Family protects each other. Family doesn't talk about family business to outsiders. You understand what I'm saying, right?" Basically threatened me without directly threatening me, if you know what I mean. I didn't agree to shit. I just nodded because his hand was hurting my shoulder, and I wanted him to let go. The next day when I was alone with my mom, I told her what I saw in the garage. I thought she'd freak out, call the cops, something. But no. She got this weird look on her face, like part scared and part angry, then yelled at me for snooping around and making up stories. I was like, "ATF, Mom. I'm not making anything up." I told her exactly what I saw, how much of it I saw, the whole setup in the garage. She started crying, and then Nate came home early from work. She immediately told him what I said, and I thought he was gonna blow up or something. Instead, he got super calm, which was almost scarier. He sat us both down and gave this whole rehearsed-sounding story about how his dad has a prescription-sharing network for seniors who can't afford their meds, and how they redistribute extra pills from people who have good insurance to people who don't. Said it was technically not legal, but they were helping people in need. And wasn't that what Jesus would do? They're not even religious, LOL. I called BS right to his face. I was like, people don't need dozens of identical little baggies of the exact same pills if it's just sharing leftover prescriptions. That's dealing drugs. That's when shit really hit the fan. Nate's face went red. My mom started crying harder. Nate called his parents, who drove over immediately. Soon the whole Walker clan was in our living room, all talking over each other, saying I was lying, I was jealous, I was trying to cause problems because I didn't want a new dad. It was insane. Dale kept saying I misunderstood what I saw. Barbara kept going on about how I was troubled and needed professional help. Kyle was saying they should send me to some boarding school. My mom just sat there crying, not defending me at all. Fast forward 2 weeks, and Nate had convinced my mom I was troubled and needed to go stay with my Aunt Kathy in Michigan until things calmed down. They packed my stuff while I was at school one day, and when I got home, my aunt was there to pick me up. My mom wouldn't even look me in the eye when she hugged me goodbye. I was basically exiled from my own home at 16 because I wouldn't play along with their pill-dealing family business. And that's how I became the family black sheep, all because I wasn't cool with being part of their little prescription drug ring. So I ended up living with my Aunt Kathy for the next 2 years until I graduated high school. It was weird AF at first. Aunt Kathy lives in this tiny town where everyone knows everyone's business, and I was the mysterious troubled niece from out of state. The rumors were wild. Some kids at school thought I got kicked out for setting fires or doing drugs myself. Ironic, right? Kathy was cool, though. She never really believed I was troubled. She knew something was up with my mom and Jeff, but she didn't push me to talk about it. She just gave me a room, enrolled me in the local high school, and let me be. My mom would visit like twice a year, always without Jeff, always with this sad, torn look on her face like she was the victim in all this. She'd bring gifts and act like everything was normal, like I was just away at some boarding school or something. Jeff sends his love, she'd say, which was total BS. We both knew he was glad I was gone. During those visits, I could tell she was stuck between her husband and her daughter, and honestly, I felt bad for her sometimes. Jeff had her completely wrapped around his finger. She'd ask about school, about my friends, about my plans after graduation, but we never ever talked about why I was living with Aunt Kathy instead of at home. It was this massive elephant in the room we just danced around. After high school, I got into State University with a partial scholarship. It wasn't my dream school or anything, but the scholarship helped, and it was far enough from home that I wouldn't have to deal with any Walker family drama. I worked my ass off at 2 jobs, morning shifts at a coffee shop and weekend reception at a gym, to pay for what the scholarship didn't cover. Some nights I'd be up till 3 a.m., doing homework after an 8-hour shift, running on nothing but energy drinks and pure stubbornness. I didn't go home for holidays most of the time. I'd visit Aunt Kathy for a few days at Christmas, but that was it. My mom would call on my birthday and major holidays. Those calls were always awkward, with her asking surface-level questions and me giving short answers. Jeff never got on the phone. Graduated with a degree in healthcare administration. Not the most exciting field, but stable, you know? Got a decent job at a billing company for medical practices. The irony of me working in healthcare while my stepdad's family ran their little pill operation wasn't lost on me. I was making it on my own, though. No help from mom or Jeff. Had my own apartment, with 2 roommates, but still, paid my own bills. Even started building a tiny emergency fund. I was doing okay. Then about 3 years after I graduated, I get this call from my mom on a random Tuesday night. I almost didn't answer because I was exhausted from work, but something told me I should. From the second I picked up, I could tell something was wrong. She was crying so hard she could barely talk. "Jen, I need your help," she finally managed to say between sobs. "We're about to lose the house." Turns out Jeff had lost his job after the construction company downsized. They were 3 months behind on the mortgage. 3. The bank was threatening foreclosure. Mom was working as a receptionist at a dental office but wasn't making enough to cover everything. Part of me, a big part, TBH, wanted to say, tough shit, and hang up. Why should I care if they lost their house? These people kicked me out when I was 16 for not wanting to keep quiet about Dale and Kyle's drug dealing. Dale and Barbara probably had plenty of pill money. Why weren't they helping? So I asked exactly that. What about Barbara and Dale? Can't they help? "Things are complicated with them right now," she said, her voice getting all quiet and weird. Jeff and his dad had a falling out over some family business. They haven't spoken in months. Family business. That's what they always called their operation. I assumed Jeff had finally stood up to his dad about the drug dealing or something. Good for him, I guess. Though it came at a pretty convenient time when they needed my money. "So you're calling me? After everything?" I couldn't keep the bitterness out of my voice. I know, she said, starting to cry again. "I don't deserve your help. I know that. But Jen, I don't know what else to do. We've tried everything. Jeff's been applying everywhere, but nobody's hiring. We've already sold both cars and are sharing this old beater, I'm scared of being homeless. I should have told her to go ask her precious husband's drug-dealing family for help, but I couldn't. Despite everything, she was still my mom, and I could tell she was scared. I've always had this stupid soft spot for her, even after everything. Maybe because I remember how it was before Jeff, when it was just her and me against the world after my real dad left. How much do you need? I heard myself asking, already hating myself for giving in. She told me the mortgage amount, $1,200 a month. It was a lot for me. Like, a lot. That was almost half my monthly income after taxes. But I had some savings. I can help for a little while, I said. Until Jeff finds another job? Oh, Jen, thank you, she sobbed. We'll pay you back every penny, I promise. Then I heard Jeff's voice in the background asking who she was talking to. She covered the phone, but I could still hear her tell him it was me and that I was going to help with the mortgage. Next thing I know, he's on the phone. Jen, he said. And it was weird hearing him call me that because he usually called me Jennifer, all formal-like. I don't know what to say. I know things haven't been good between us, but I'm grateful. Really grateful. I'm not doing it for you, I said flatly. I'm doing it for Mom. I know, he said, his voice all humble now. But thank you. Things have been hard lately. I've been reconsidering a lot of things. Family priorities and all that. I bet he had. Nothing like losing your cushy job to make you reconsider priorities. I'm sorry for everything, he continued. And for a second I was thrown because he sounded sincere. You're our only hope right now. Against my better judgment, I agreed to help. I set up an automatic transfer to their mortgage account for the first of each month. $1,200 gone from my account, just like that. It meant no more eating out, no more little shopping trips, definitely no vacation that year. My emergency fund would cover about 3 months, then I'd have to start figuring out where to cut back even more. Temporary, I told myself. This is just temporary until Jeff finds work. Temporary turned into a year and a half. Jeff eventually found part-time work at a home improvement store, but it wasn't enough to cover the mortgage. Mom picked up extra shifts when she could. I kept paying, month after month. My savings dwindled, then disappeared. I had to move to a cheaper apartment with 3 roommates instead of 2. I ate ramen more nights than I care to admit. But every month, that $1,200 went to their mortgage. I thought I was buying a better relationship with them. I thought maybe this was healing old wounds. So during that time, I'd cautiously started rebuilding a relationship with my mom. We'd talk on the phone weekly, usually when Jeff wasn't around. The conversations were still kind of awkward, but getting better. She'd tell me about her coworkers at the dental office, neighborhood gossip, that kind of stuff. Normal mom things. I'd even started going over for dinner occasionally when Jeff was working late shifts at the home improvement store. Those evenings were almost like old times. Mom would cook my favorite meals, and we'd watch bad reality TV and talk shit about the contestants. It felt, not normal exactly, but like maybe we were getting there. Every time I'd visit, she'd tell me how grateful they were for my help, how they wouldn't have made it without me. You saved us, Jen, she'd say, getting all teary-eyed. I don't know what we would have done. Jeff and I had an unspoken agreement to be civil when we had to be around each other. He'd nod hello, ask generic questions about my job, then find a reason to go to the garage or the basement. Fine by me. I wasn't interested in playing happy family with him either. Then came November. Mom had been talking for weeks about Thanksgiving plans. It was going to be the first holiday I'd spent at their house since before I was sent away at 16. She was all excited, planning this huge meal, asking what dishes I wanted her to make. I'm doing a full spread, she told me on the phone. I'd even offered to bring the wine and do the grocery shopping since I knew money was still tight for them. We'd agreed I'd come over around 2 p.m., help with the final cooking, and we'd eat around 4. But a week before Thanksgiving, I called to confirm the plan and ask if she needed me to pick up anything else for the dinner. She hit me with, "Oh, Jen, about Thanksgiving. I don't think it's going to work out this year. Jeff's parents are coming, and Dale specifically asked that you not be here." I nearly choked on the coffee I was drinking. Had to set the mug down before I dropped it. Excuse me? They asked that I not be at my mother's house for Thanksgiving? After I've been paying your mortgage for over a year? Mom's voice got all quiet and shaky. You don't understand, Jen. Things are complicated. Dale and Barbara are helping Jeff get back into the construction business. They're setting him up with connections, but they made it very clear they don't want to see you. So you're choosing them over me? Again? I was nearly shouting at this point. It's not like that, she insisted. It's just one Thanksgiving. Jeff really needs this opportunity. His parents are investing in him starting his own contracting business. We'll do our own celebration another day. I couldn't fucking believe what I was hearing. Like, my brain couldn't process it. Let me get this straight, I said, trying to keep my voice level. I've been keeping a roof over your heads, but you're kicking me out of Thanksgiving because the drug dealers who threw me out of my own home as a teenager don't want to see me? They're not. It's not like that, Mom stuttered. And please keep your voice down. Jeff might hear you. Oh, heaven forbid Jeff hear me point out what assholes his parents are. It's just that Dale and Barbara have connections in the construction industry, she continued, sounding desperate. They're going to introduce Jeff to some important people who might hire him for real projects, not just stocking shelves. If this works out, he could be making real money again. And we wouldn't need your help with the mortgage anymore. So Dale and Barbara suddenly have legit construction connections? That's convenient. Where were these connections when Jeff lost his job? Oh wait, they were too busy having a falling out over the family drug business, right? Jen, please, my mom begged. It's complicated. No, it's actually super simple, I said. You're choosing Dale and Barbara, and their money, over me. Again, just like when I was 16. That's not fair, she said. You know what's not fair? Me draining my savings to pay your mortgage, while Jeff's parents are supposedly flush enough to start a whole construction business for him. Make it make sense, Mom. They've done well with some investments, she mumbled. Yeah, I bet they have. Pill dealing must be quite the profitable investment these days. Jen, she gasped. Don't say things like that. That's when I knew. Nothing had changed. Nothing would ever change. I was still the problem in their eyes. Fine, I said. Have a great Thanksgiving. I hung up and I was pissed. Like shaking with anger, pissed. I paced around my apartment, rage cleaning the kitchen just to have something to do with my hands so I wouldn't throw my phone against the wall. The fucking audacity. I had put my entire life on hold to help them. I'd moved to a crappier apartment with more roommates. I'd been eating ramen and peanut butter sandwiches so they could keep their house. I was driving a car that broke down every other week because I couldn't afford repairs, let alone a new one. My credit cards were maxed out from covering emergencies because all my savings went to their mortgage. And this is how they repaid me. Uninvited from Thanksgiving, to make room for the pill-pushing grandparents who apparently now had enough money to set Jeff up in business. I called my Aunt Kathy, the only family member who'd actually been there for me, and ranted for like an hour straight. She was furious on my behalf. Those ungrateful jerks, she kept saying. After everything you've done. Then Aunt Kathy got quiet for a minute. Jen, there's something I need to tell you, she said, her voice suddenly serious. I didn't want to get involved before, but after what they just did to you, you deserve to know. My stomach dropped. Know what? Last month I ran into Kyle's wife Melissa at the mall. She was pretty drunk at the food court, middle of the afternoon. She started rambling about family problems, saying Jeff and Dale were fighting over the business, and how Jeff was taking crazy risks. What kind of risks? I asked, my heart starting to pound. She said he'd been storing product at your mom's house, that Dale was furious because it was too dangerous. She kept saying they were going to lose everything if Jeff didn't get smart. My mind started spinning. All this time I'd believed Jeff was just a bystander in his family's drug operation, maybe turning a blind eye but not actively involved. That's what my mom had always insisted, that Dale and Kyle were the bad ones. But Jeff was different. Are you saying Jeff is dealing drugs too? From Mom's house? The house I've been paying the mortgage on? I think so, honey. Melissa shut up real quick when she realized what she was saying, but she'd already said enough. I didn't tell you because I wasn't 100% sure, and I didn't want to upset you. But after what they just did, uninviting you from Thanksgiving, my mind was racing. If Jeff was actually dealing from my mom's house, did she know? Was she involved? Was I literally funding a drug operation with my mortgage payments? It made me sick to think I'd been financially supporting people who were probably dealing pills the whole time. People who threw me away at 16 for not wanting to be part of their operation, and now were throwing me away again because I was an inconvenient reminder of what they really were. I stewed on it for days. I couldn't sleep, couldn't eat right. My chest felt like someone was sitting on it all the time. I'd cry randomly while driving to work. This wasn't just anger. It was this deep, gutting feeling of being thrown away. Twice I kept thinking about everything I'd done for them. Over a year of sending money I could barely afford, draining my savings, putting off buying my own place, all to help keep a roof over their heads. I'd forgiven them for sending me away as a teenager. I'd tried so hard to rebuild our relationship. And this is what I got in return? Uninvited from Thanksgiving because the people who drove me away in the first place didn't want to see me? The more I thought about it, the clearer it became. They were never going to change. My mom was never going to choose me over Jeff and his family. I was always going to be the outsider, the inconvenience, the one who could be discarded when it suited them. Something inside me just snapped. I was done being used. Done being the family ATM they could milk for mortgage payments, but hide away when the real family came over. I made a decision I knew might change everything. I was going to show up for Thanksgiving anyway, but not empty-handed. So, Thanksgiving Day finally rolls around. I spent the morning going back and forth about whether I was actually going to go through with this. Like full-on anxiety, changing my mind every 5 minutes. Part of me was like, fuck it, cut them off and never look back. But another part needed, I don't know, confirmation that I wasn't crazy? Something to finally break this cycle of me giving and them taking? I hadn't slept for shit the night before. My roommates were all gone to their own family things, so I was just alone in the apartment, pacing, practicing what I'd say if I went, calculating exactly how much money I'd sent them over the past 18 months. $21,600? Yeah, I did the math, and seeing that number written out made me want to throw up. Around noon, I finally made up my mind. I was going, not just to confront them, but to find proof of what I already knew in my gut, that Jeff was involved in his parents' pill business. I wasn't just going to be kicked aside again without understanding the full picture. I got dressed, nothing fancy, just jeans and a sweater, and drove to their house, but didn't pull into the driveway. I parked about a block away where I could still see their place. Call it staking out or whatever, but I wanted to get a feel for the situation before barging in. I could see several cars in the driveway. My mom's beat-up Honda, Jeff's truck, and Dale's fancy Audi SUV. Guess the family business was doing well. There was also a car I didn't recognize, probably Kyle and Melissa's new one. Around 12:30, I saw Jeff and Dale head out to the garage with beers in hand. Classic men escaping kitchen duties move, but I figured they might also be talking business. They stayed out there for nearly half an hour. When they came back inside, Dale was carrying something small that he tucked into his jacket pocket. Definitely not leftovers. I sat in my car for another hour, alternating between working up my courage and almost driving away. My heart was pounding so hard I could feel it in my ears. At exactly 2 p.m., the time I was originally supposed to arrive, I grabbed the pumpkin pie I'd bought at the grocery store and walked up to the front door. My mom answered, and I swear to God her face went completely white, like she'd seen a ghost. "Jen, what are you doing here?" she stammered, blocking the doorway. "Bringing pie, like we planned," I said, loud enough for everyone inside to hear. I pushed past her into the house before she could stop me. The living room went dead silent. Barbara and Dale were on the couch with glasses of wine. Jeff was in his recliner, and his brother Kyle and wife Melissa were by the fireplace. They all turned to stare at me. "Hope I'm not interrupting," I said with a fake smile. "Just thought family should be together on Thanksgiving." The look on Dale's face was priceless, like he was trying to decide whether to yell or just pretend everything was normal for appearance's sake. Jeff stood up, his face turning an angry red. "Kelly," he said to my mom, "I thought we discussed this." "She just showed up," Mom stammered, still by the door. "I didn't know she was coming." "Well, I'm here now," I said, still doing the fake, cheerful voice. "And I brought pumpkin pie. Should I put it in the kitchen?" Without waiting for an answer, I walked toward the kitchen. As I passed the hallway to the garage, I made a quick detour. I needed evidence, not just suspicions. "Bathroom," I called over my shoulder when Mom started to follow me. Instead of going to the bathroom, I slipped into the garage. If they were back in business, and if Jeff was involved, there might be evidence. The garage had always been Jeff's domain. He didn't even like my mom going in there to get stuff from the freezer. The place was cluttered with tools and half-finished projects. Typical Jeff, always starting things and never finishing them. I did a quick scan and spotted his work duffel partially unzipped on his workbench. I glanced back at the door, then quickly looked inside. Jackpot. There was a small fireproof lockbox inside, unlocked, with stacks of cash, stacks, and several baggies of pills. Oxy from the look of them. I recognized the markings from my healthcare job, where we sometimes dealt with prescription verification. There had to be thousands of dollars in there, plus enough pills to get someone serious jail time. My hand flew to my mouth to keep from gasping out loud. All these years, I thought Jeff was just the guy who married into the Walker family drug business, maybe turning a blind eye but not actively involved. My mom had always sworn he wasn't part of it, but here was proof, in his bag, with his company logo, that he was neck-deep in it. My hands were shaking as I took photos with my phone, making sure to get clear shots of everything including the duffel with Jeff's construction company logo on the side. The pill bags, the cash, everything. I'd need proof when I went to the police. I felt sick to my stomach. Aunt Kathy was right. Jeff wasn't just covering for his family. He was actively dealing drugs from the house I was paying for. I heard footsteps coming, so I quickly zipped the bag most of the way, leaving it like I found it, flushed the toilet in the half bath off the garage to sell my bathroom story, and washed my hands for good measure. When I opened the door, Dale was standing there, eyes narrowed suspiciously. He was blocking the hallway, arms crossed. "Garage isn't the bathroom, Jennifer," he said, his voice low and threatening. My heart was racing, but I kept my face neutral. "Sorry," I said. "Wrong door. Too many years away from this house, I guess." He didn't move for a second, just stared at me like he was trying to figure out what I was up to. Then he stepped aside, but not before saying, "You shouldn't have come today. This isn't going to end well." Was that a threat? It sure felt like one. When I got back to the living room, the tension was so thick. Barbara was whispering urgently to Jeff, who kept glancing at me with growing suspicion. Kyle and his wife were pretending to be super interested in the football game on TV. My mom looked like she was about to have a panic attack. "You know what?" I said. "I can tell this is awkward for everyone. I'll go. But Mom, can I talk to you outside for a minute?" She followed me out to the front porch, wringing her hands and looking everywhere but at my face. "Jen, you shouldn't have come," she said quietly. "You've made everything so difficult now." "Mom, listen to me," I said, my voice urgent. "They're still dealing drugs. Jeff is involved. I just saw a lockbox full of pills and cash in his work bag in the garage." Her head snapped up, anger replacing the anxiety on her face. "That's ridiculous," she snapped. "You're making things up again, just like when you were a teenager. Jeff runs a legitimate business now." "A legitimate business that hasn't even started yet? That has thousands in cash and prescription pills?" "Mom, wake up. They're using you, using your house probably. If they get caught, you could go down too." "I want you to leave," she said coldly. "Now. And don't come back until you can be supportive of this family." The way she said "this family," like I wasn't part of it, broke something in me. All these years, all this money, all this trying to rebuild bridges, and I was still on the outside. Still the troublemaker. Still the one who wasn't family. "Fine," I said, my voice cracking. "But you can kiss your mortgage payment goodbye from now on." I walked to my car with as much dignity as I could muster, feeling her eyes on my back. I didn't cry until I was a block away. Then I pulled over and just lost it. Sobbed so hard I couldn't breathe. Part of me had still hoped, after everything, that my mom would believe me, choose me, but she never would. When I finally got myself together enough to drive, I didn't go home. I had those photos burning a hole in my phone. I had evidence of what they were doing, and I knew exactly where I needed to go. I wasn't just angry anymore. I was heartbroken, yes, but also clearer than I'd been in years. These people, including my mom, had been using me, lying to me, and pushing me away whenever it suited them, and they were dealing drugs that hurt people. This wasn't just about my personal grievances anymore. As I pulled into the parking lot of the police station, tears were streaming down my face. The desk sergeant actually asked if I was okay to give a statement, or if I needed medical attention first. That's how wrecked I looked. "My family," I choked out. "They're dealing drugs, and I have proof." I showed them the photos, told them everything through hiccuping sobs, what I'd seen as a teenager, what happened today. They took me to this little interview room with uncomfortable chairs and fluorescent lighting that made my already puffy eyes hurt even more. They didn't seem super interested at first, probably thought I was just some crazy person with family drama. But when I showed them the photos of the pills and cash, Detective Rivera's whole demeanor changed. She called in another detective, an older guy whose name I can't remember. "We've actually had our eye on a distribution network in that area. This could help connect some dots," one of the detectives told me. I felt like I was going to throw up when they asked if I'd be willing to make a formal statement and possibly testify if it came to that. My signature on that paper felt like signing away my relationship with my mom forever. But I did it. My hand was shaking so bad my signature looked like a little kid wrote it. They told me they'd probably execute a search warrant soon, but to act normal if my family contacted me. They also said I shouldn't go back to the house, like I was planning to after that disaster. When I got to my apartment, I threw up in the bathroom, then crawled into bed with all my clothes on, and just stared at the ceiling. One of my roommates knocked on my door around midnight to ask if I was okay. I told her I had food poisoning. Easier than explaining the truth. I didn't sleep that night, or the next. Just kept replaying everything in my head, wondering if I'd done the right thing, wondering what would happen to my mom. 3 days after Thanksgiving, they raided my mom's house. I knew it was happening because the detective called to let me know. Said they found way more than what I'd seen. Apparently the garage wasn't the only stash spot. They had pills hidden in the basement ceiling tiles, more cash in a safe behind a false wall in Jeff's office, the spare bedroom he'd taken over. Jeff, Dale, and Kyle were all arrested. My mom called me about an hour after the raid. "What did you do?" she screamed into the phone. "They took Jeff away in handcuffs. They tore the house apart. I reported what I saw, I finally whispered, my voice cracking. If they found more, that's not on me. They're saying I could be charged as an accessory. How could you do this to your own mother? That broke me a little, but I didn't answer and hung up. There were nothing left to say. The weeks after the raid were a blur of police interviews, legal meetings, and sleepless nights. I learned that Jeff wasn't just involved. He was one of the ringleaders. His construction connections gave them access to people with prescriptions, buying pills from those desperate for cash and reselling them at a markup. The thing with Dale wasn't about morals. It was over money. Jeff wanted a bigger cut, pulled back when he didn't get it. And that's when they lost the construction job and needed my help with the mortgage. When the prosecutors offered Jeff a deal, he didn't hesitate to flip on Dale and Kyle, proving he'd sell anyone out to save himself. Jeff got 3 years, while Dale and Kyle took heavier sentences. My mom wasn't charged, but Barbara and Melissa got probation and lost assets. I didn't talk to my mom through it. Every call ended in blame and heartbreak until I stopped answering altogether. But she eventually lost the house 5 months later and moved in with her sister in Ohio. She called me a few times, her voicemails swinging between begging and anger. "You destroyed this family," she said in one. "I hope you're happy now." Her words still haunt me. Did I act for justice or revenge? Was I protecting others or settling old scores? I started therapy, trying to live with the choices I made, but I don't regret turning them in. They were criminals, but I'm haunted by the what-ifs. Could I have saved my mom sooner? Would any of this have happened if I'd just stayed quiet? Some bridges, once burned, don't rebuild. Maybe this is one of them. Thank you for sticking until the end. Tell me, what do you guys think?